I want to talk a little bit about how our thinking impacts our emotional state, how thought is a big factor in terms of how we feel. And as we become more alert to our thought life and how we view the world around us, we'll become a little more aware of the fact that our emotions are very much triggered by the things that we think, the things that we choose to think about. Now, I feel like I need to preface this when I speak about these things because there are really physiological states that are related to various kinds of biochemical imbalances within the body that can create depression, clinical depression, that can create various other thinking or mood-related disturbances or disorders. So ultimately, understand that when I'm talking about the thinking playing a part in how we experience the world through our emotions, I'm talking about the kind of thing that the average person is contending with day to day, the average person is dealing with as they are making a judgment about some aspect of something they're encountering in the world, as they're thinking about something, as they're experiencing it through their thoughts. In the vast majority of circumstances like this, what we do choose to think does impact how we are going to feel. And I think I can just reflect back on some of these truths going back 25 years ago when I think about the mental health system in my community here. They, at that time, ran a group called the Depression Clinic. And the Depression Clinic did not pass out Prozac to the clients. There were no medications at all that were given out. Instead, it focused on teaching a cognitive behavioral understanding of how thoughts impact emotions and helping the clients gain a better understanding as to maybe what kind of junk thinking was going on and what kinds of things they were perhaps lingering over in their mental battles that were creating negative emotional states, negative and physical states too. It very much can actually create something like that as we continually focus on things in a more negative way. So these folks were then trained to become more alert and begin to alter their emotional states from within. And it's actually a very biblical approach too, and understanding that, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And as we perhaps learn how to take every thought captive, then we become a little more able to move beyond the things that would weigh us down emotionally, that would keep us feeling bad or hurt or depressed or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, and I had this whole world view, if you will, brought to my attention in one neat little encounter I had with a friend one day. I had been talking about a number of, problem things going on, and he began to share some of the problems that were going on in his life. But what I noticed is that he was taking the problem areas and he was not lingering over them. He wasn't sweeping them under the rug either, but he was moving through them. And it's almost like if we develop that ability to have an understanding that I can get through this negative event that's happening to me, that it could build something better for my future, or that the things that I have already built into my life will actually help bring me through this, thing and I will be on a better place later on, or that other good things are in my life, so this bad thing doesn't have to be the complete thing that will weigh me down or destroy me, or whatever the self-talk is that can move us through um, the negative place. It's an essential, and I saw him doing that in everything that we would ever talk about that had a little bit of a negative bent to it. So finally I said to him one day, I said, so how did you do that? Where did you learn that whole technique that you do not linger on, the negative things that come your way? And he said, I learned long ago that I had to do this. He said, you're talking about the attitude of gratitude. And I said, yeah, the attitude of gratitude. Because most people, if we discuss the attitude of gratitude with them, especially if you're having a bad day, you don't want to hear it. And he said, well, I learned that I had to maintain an attitude of gratitude, because if I chose not to, then the negative thinking would come in. And when the negative thinking would come in, then the emotional state would rise up that corresponds with that negative thinking. And when that emotional state would rise up, I would begin to live in that, whether it be depression or anger or frustration or hate or, feeling unable to function or, incapable of managing my life. Whatever that is, it would rise up. And as it would rise up, then the disease process of alcoholism would take over. And as that would take over, then I would be dead. And I went, whoa, that's an interesting kind of recognition of exactly what happens to us. But you don't even have to be an alcoholic or a drug addict to have that exact same sequence of events take place. Because as you do operate in something outside of the attitude of gratitude, the negative thinking can take over. The emotional state that corresponds to that negative thinking can rise up. As that rises up inside of you and begins to produce its own kind of death, it may end up causing, cortisol levels to go more against your body. You might have physiological problems. This would lead to high blood pressure, the stomach-related gastrointestinal problems, the heart problems. All of this can eventually take its toll on the body, and eventually you would be dead at a rate of dying in the day-to-day world that maybe would be unnecessary. You would be dead because in each moment of each day you would be claiming something a little closer to the destruction of yourself than of anything that is actually constructive for yourself. So as I thought about that, I thought that is such a real key piece in helping us really look at what are we doing to ourselves when we operate outside of the attitude of gratitude. So what I encourage folks is to take a look at their self-talk. If you have a lot more emotional stuff that is born out of your own negative thinking and counter to any kind of thankful or grateful heart that you could be cultivating, then perhaps you may need to look at that and consider different ways to perhaps alter that and change the terrain, so to speak. You can do that. You can talk to friends, hopefully who are uplifting and can give you some good feedback and maybe give you guidance. You can talk to some trusted people. You can seek a counselor. You can read helpful books. You can seek out other kinds of avenues beginning to cultivate things that are going to operate in gratefulness for you. And if you choose to do that, I think you'll benefit greatly. So That's just a little bit of today.